I wanted to do this so I've been trying to do live streams on Fridays anyway, just to kind of, working from home is just generally, a not lonely thing, but, it's generally a, kind of isolating thing, and so I figured, oop, there we go. I figured that doing a live stream, giving people some insight into kind of the stuff that I like to work on Fridays and the things I do, would be helpful for followers, people in my newsletter, students, and stuff like that. But in any case, I thought today would be good because I've had a few meetings and conversations with people over the last week about working from home, teaching online, and some of the tools that you can use for that. So I figure that I can answer some of those questions, and then if any questions are coming in, I can kind of field them in real time. So, let me put this out on the socials, and then we can kind of get started. So, ask about cool. So, there we go. Live stream is going now, and then let's see. Uh oh. Thanks, Phil. The U is watching me. Um, cool. Thank you. So let's see. We've got the live stream going here. I've tweeted it. I have Facebooked it. And so let me start off with some of the work from home questions I've gotten a lot, which is like, what are some good tools to work from home? How do I uh, kind of keep track of the stuff I need to do, stuff like that. Um, I wrote a blog post earlier this week about some tips that I like to give people who work from home, which is have a dedicated space. I think that's really important. Even if you don't have a dedicated office, have a space where you work um, generally, because that'll kind of help you get into the mindset of, okay, I'm at work today. Talk to the people that you live with. I think that's another really important one because, you wanna make sure that they understand that you are at work and that, that wow. Hi, Alumni Society. Hi, Lee. Hi, Phil. Thanks for tuning in. But you wanna make sure that they understand that you're at work, right? I talk about a story about kind of getting my parents to realize when I was living at their house, when I was working and things like that. Definitely be communicative, especially if you work with other people. You're now in a situation where they can't just drop in on you. So if you use Slack or Discord or Microsoft Teams, make sure to set your status and generally let them know when you're going to be around or you're not going to be around. One of the big benefits of working from home is that somebody can't just like email you and then walk over to your desk and be like, "Hey, I just emailed you." But at the same time, let them know if something's urgent, how to get a hold of you. At that and have set hours as well. So, um, I work most effectively in the morning, so I try to come into my office around 7 or 8. And then I kinda lose steam around 2 or 3, so I'll go for a walk, but make sure to work at a time that works best for you, that's really going to help, and let your coworkers know about that too. So, a few tips for working from home. Um, as far as the teaching online stuff goes, which is probably why a lot of my, friends and former coworkers at the U are, at the University of Scranton, I should say, are tuning in, is, I fielded a few questions recently about what are some good tools and techniques for teaching online. What I like to do is I will record my lectures via video. I obviously have a setup for that. I've been doing a lot more YouTube and video stuff, and my next course, which is my podcasting course, is going to be, a lot of talking head video here. So, I like to record my lessons or my lectures via video, and then I will put them up on something like, um, Vimeo, which is a really good hosting platform for videos. If I don't care that they're public, I'll use YouTube, but the benefit of Vimeo, especially the paid version of it, is, you can essentially whitelist domains to embed your videos in. So, if you have a website where you wanna put these videos, you can embed them. So, these videos can only be embedded at scranton.edu or whatever. So that's what I use for all of my paid courses is Vimeo, Vimeo Pro specifically. Um, as far as engaging with students and evaluating students, those are 2 questions that I've gotten a lot. How do we properly assess students and make sure that they are doing the things that they need to do and make sure they're not cheating? Unfortunately, the not cheating part is a tough nut to crack anyway. Um, my my personal, philosophy is that when they're out in the real world, like, they're probably going to have access to the internet and stuff like that, and I know it's not really the same, right? You wanna make sure that they understand the concepts without, like, some, without leaning on Google too much, but there are tools out there that will lock down the browser. One that my friend told me about today is Respondus, and I'm sure if you're in higher ed or in, K through 12, you're probably aware of some of those tools. So it's a lot about the engaging, with students. I've thought about this a lot because my own students are mostly self-employed or entrepreneurs, freelancers, people who want to, improve their skills for creating websites, and I wanna build a community that works for them. I polled them recently, and Facebook was the best place for that. So, I have a Facebook community. Other things that you can do as a teacher, is Zoom. Zoom is the best video conferencing, webinar software out there right now, I believe. Um, Especially if you're not necessarily on a limited account. So I think, like, the $15 a month plan will let you have unlimited meeting times, meeting lengths. Hey, Jason. Um, Unlimited meeting lengths and, uh, I think, like, up to 100 people can, oh, that's the webinar software. So, but you can also invite a certain number of people via video. So, you can actually have a chat, with people who are sharing their video within Zoom, which is really good, right? Because then you kinda have that classroom feel, you have that synchronous chat with them. If you wanna switch to, like, a webinar sort of thing where people tune in a lot like this, there's, um, a chat on the side, but you're the only active video. That's probably more conducive to, like, you talking so that you're not getting, like, everybody's home environment. Zoom allows for that too, so you can set up a Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar to do that. If you are looking for some more flexibility or something different, right now I'm using something called BeLive, BeLive dot TV. Yeah, BeLive.tv. What that does is you can connect it to Facebook Live and YouTube, and Twitch is coming soon. And that's really nice because, what it does is sets up your area so you can stream, but it also pulls in, like, Facebook and YouTube comments so that you don't necessarily need to watch the stream for comments, which is good because that gets really distracting. And then you can easily monitor your screen. So Be Live is something that I picked up a while ago that's really good. Crowdcast is another good piece of webinar software, um, that can, that you can publish easily. So Zoom, I think, is the best for most people. And then Be Live and Crowdcast are 2 that I've used that I also really like. So if you're looking for, um, kind of like live engagement with your students, that's really good. And then as far as chat, asynchronous chat, um, email is probably the best for a lot of people still, but uh, Slack, again, Slack, Discord, or Microsoft Teams are all chat apps. So you can invite your students into a chat. You can have private rooms. So if you teach multiple courses, you can have students invited into um, just chat rooms for those courses so that you can kind of talk about assignments and things like that. And then um, you could see that you could set yourself away, you could set yourself there. So you can have kind of these virtual office hours without necessarily having your video going. Um, I've also I've tried using a forum, so like Discourse, as opposed to Discord, which is the server or which is the chat software. Discourse is open source forum software. So that's also something that you might want to look into if you want to have forums for your course. I'm sure like if you're in higher ed or K through 12, there's probably um, an LMS that you're using as well. So those are some tools that I think are helpful. As far as actually um, formatting your lectures and like getting them online, I think that if you're going to do text only, which is probably what a lot of people are probably going to do, make sure that it's really clear what you're having them read, the objectives for each lesson, and then what they need to do. I think something that's really easy to do, if you're creating an online course that's supposed to replace an in-person course for the time being, is giving the students too much work, like gauging how much work is um, reasonable. So I would say treat it treat it like your lecture is replacing some portion of the 50 minutes or hour and 20 minutes or whatever, um, that a student will be in your classroom, and then give them the normal amount of homework. Um, because again, like, it could be a little bit overwhelming, especially if they're no longer getting that in-person live lecture sort of thing. Um, so you wanna make sure that you give them enough time to more or less teach themselves, the material and then be able to do the homework. Um, Communicate office hours with them using one of the tools like Zoom or, even like YouTube Live. Like YouTube Live and Twitch, I should say, are both free. So if you're doing this on your own, like without the support of your institution, um, YouTube Live and Twitch are both helpful and free tools. And YouTube specifically lets you have an unlisted live stream so that you're not streaming to the whole world. So you can just share that link with your students and only they'll have access to it. But again, Zoom is a bit more private, right? Because that's like invite only or only people with a institutional address can access email address can access it. Um, I was talking to a friend of mine right before this. He was asking me about podcasting and if podcasting could be helpful at a time like this, and I truly think it can be. So if you record your lectures, and put them out in podcast form, that way students can listen, and then if you wanna make the slides available, you can do that as well. That's, like, kind of low tech, but also low barrier of entry. A tool for that is Anchor.fm. I think that is it is free, and I think it is the easiest way to set up a podcast, and if you are only doing it to get your lectures online, like, yeah, at the end of an Anchor podcast, they, like, insert a, like, "This podcast is hosted on Anchor, check us out," or whatever, but if it's just a vehicle to get your lecture to a student, I think that that's a great way to do it. So you can record it, like, on your phone or on your microphone, um, on your computer microphone, do a lecture, encourage them to follow along with the PowerPoint slides, or again, using some screen recording software, you can have, actually, you know what? Loom? Let me back up. So you can do the podcast, give a voice or an audio only lecture and have your students follow along, or at least get some of the material, and then you kinda have your voice inflection to let them know what's important and what they should focus on. Um, if you are interested in screen sharing or walking through slides, um, Loom is a really great piece of software, and uh, in response to COVID-19, they have made their pro account free for anybody with uh, a school email address. So a .edu, or if you're a K through 12 institution, they'll verify you another way, but, um, so if if you have a .edu address, check out Loom. It's really great software. I'm probably gonna do a separate YouTube video on that, but it'll record your face in the corner, and then you could share your screen, so you could have your PowerPoint slides up and walk through it that way. Which if that's how you lecture, that's how you lecture. Uh, it's a way to deliver that content you've already created. Um, so let's see, we talked about synchronous chats, asynchronous chats, podcasting as lectures, kind of um, uh, what to do to deliver that information. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I know I posted this on Facebook too, so I'll check the Facebook um, comment area to make sure there are no questions there. But the last thing that I would kind of talk about or mention is um, be is you probably want to be a little bit creative with delivering some of your material. Engaging and making sure students do it is hard. Online course completion in general is pretty low. I know it's a little bit different if you are at a high school or a college and the students need to complete this to, like, graduate or something like that, but, um, in general, uh, delivering that information to students can be, tough, or making sure that they stay engaged can be tough. So, um, my friend Nick talked about making his lectures like 10 to 15 minutes via a podcast so students can listen to him give a short lecture, um, and then giving them a topic. Make sure to encourage discussion among students, make that part of the assignment, right? Where they listen to the lecture and then they chime in with their thoughts. Have the normal homework and assessments you would give them. Um, but also, again, like I said, try to be present when you can. So, maybe not every day you would meet, or not at every time you would meet, but maybe once a week, have that synchronous video chat, um, and hang out in the Slack to make sure to be available to your students to answer any questions that you have. Because keeping students engaged when they're not trapped in a classroom with you can be pretty tough. Um, So I think that's kind of the general stuff I wanted to go through. If there are any questions, feel free to send them along. But the tools that I recommend, I will drop them in the comments or in the description for this. I'll drop them in the description for this video when it's done. Um, but I think Zoom is the best video chat software out there. Um, Loom, Loom, is really good for screen recordings. So if you do wanna walk through PowerPoints or do, like, video tutorials, right, based on whatever you're showing on your screen, with some software or something like that, like, Loom is really, really good for that. You can see the number of times a video has been viewed, and people can comment on it, so there's a community aspect to it too. So Zoom and Loom, for chat, Slack, Discord, or Microsoft Teams. There's Discourse for forums. And I mean, like, there's a whole lot of I'm a WordPress developer, so, there's, like, a whole lot of WordPress options out there too, but I'm focused on, uh, quickest and easiest to get set up, and, all the yes. Um, Phil just said all the Yes, that's exactly right. Um, so, I'm looking for, like, quickest and easiest to get up and running. Discourse might not actually be. Um, but it is good forum software. For podcasting, Anchor.fm is bar none the fastest and easiest to get up and running with. You can record right from your computer or your phone with the Anchor app, and you could put, episodes out there. If you wanna go a more traditional podcasting route, Podbean, Podbean.com, that is also free for up to 5 hours. And that'll set you up with, like, a podcast website and everything like that. So that's the more traditional route. I use Libsyn, Libsyn.com. That starts at $5 a month. But Anchor is the best for that. And then make sure that you're available for your students, that you're giving them ways to engage outside the classroom. When I taught in the classroom, I tried to have class discussions once a month. I think those are probably even more important now, going online because you can't necessarily have like an ad hoc discussion online. So having a place where students can go and chat and ask questions, or have them read about a topic and then ask them to respond with their thoughts, graded is going to be important. Um, the last thing I want to talk about here is my friend Matt teaches a math class, and he hit me with a pretty tough question. So he is trying to figure out the best way to assess his math students. And unlike um, courses or classes where multiple choice, yields the one and only correct answer, with math, there's a lot of partial credit. So how do you make sure that students aren't just using Wolfram Alpha to get the answers? How can they show their work? And when your students are at home, you can't guarantee that they're gonna have, like, good internet connection, for one. More than one teacher this week has told me that a lot of their students just use the cellular on their phone, um, to connect and to see, their assignments and stuff like that and interact. So that's an important thing to think about. Um, but my initial solution, which doesn't work because 'cause you'd have to assume that your students have an iPad that they can draw on or a tablet that they can draw on, is, have them write out the answers in some app, and send it along, or write out the answers on paper and then use an app like Scanner Pro or ScanBot to take a picture and convert that picture to a PDF or something like that and send it along. And that's probably doable, right? Because you can assume that students have at least a smartphone these days, and they can take a picture of their homework, but what's to prevent them from just using the internet to cheat, or to look up the answer, or to ask their other classmates what the answer is? And there's not a great, solution for that, because even if they are using something like Respondus where your browser is completely locked down, um, they probably have a second device. So I think the assessment stuff is going to be a little bit harder, a lot bit harder, than being in the classroom with them. You can try, like, an oral exam via video. That's not gonna work with math, though. Like, I mean, like, Zoom has a whiteboard feature, uh, but that's pretty time consuming on your part, and it doesn't scale, right? If you have, like, 10 students in your class, that's one thing, but if you have, like, 100 students in your class, it's impossible. So the assessment thing is a tough nut to crack, and I would say focus more on delivering your students the information and assessing them in some way, even if it's not completely foolproof. I think that's probably the best way to move forward, at least temporarily. If you're looking at a more long-term solution, there's probably tools that you can have a few months to assess or, have developed or something like that. Um, but that's really something to think about. Um, so I think that's everything that I wanted to run through. I don't see any specific questions coming through. So the last thing I'll mention is if you're thinking about just teaching online in general, maybe you're not in a situation where you're in a higher ed or K through 12 institution, you just wanna put educational material online. Um, what's a good LMS for that? Most colleges and high schools I have come across use Blackboard or something owned by Blackboard. So I think like Angel and Canvas, I think are they both owned? Maybe somebody in the chat can, verify that for me, but I think they're both owned by Blackboard at this point. Um, maybe Canvas is not. Moodle is an open source LMS, an open source standalone LMS. My personal favorite, the one I use is LearnDash. It's an LMS for WordPress. It works on top of WordPress. It's a nice way to sell courses. Um, but again, if you want um kind of like quick and easy, or quick and easier, um, where you don't have to worry about setting up WordPress and finding a host and making sure that you have everything installed and everything like that. Like that's a lot of work. Teachable is a good one. Um, so Teachable has a free plan. It is very unclear what's part of the free plan, now that I'm looking at their page, but, um okay, here we go. So, Teachable, um, lets you have free or paid courses. They take a higher commission on the paid courses, um, if you are selling them. You can have up t oh, see, so okay, already you can have up to 10 students in a free Teachable course. Um But you can upload videos there. There's email this is just general support. You can have basic quizzes and stuff like that. Their basic plan, which unlocks a whole lot of stuff, I think starts at, $39 a month, so that's tough. WordPress will probably like, the WordPress solution will probably be a little bit more free. Um, the LMS that was built on WordPress was, LearnDash. I'll put that in the chat too. Um I like LearnDash. It's like 150 bucks a year for a license. There's also Lifter LMS, which is free, and then to unlock, like, most of the features, it's gonna cost money. Um, my friend, Tim, thanks for joining, um, mentioned Desire to Learn is also out there. That's the one that the U uses last time I checked. I forgot about that. Um I think I went right back to Angel, like, we moved off Blackboard when I was there, we moved to Angel, and then Blackboard bought Angel. So Desire to Learn is also out there. But as far as ease of use, like, there's Teachable, which is, free to get started. Moodle is open source, so, you could probably get that up and running pretty quickly as well, but those are LMSs if you wanna create your own online course environment, if you're not given the infrastructure by your institution. Um, again, that's everything that I wanted to run through in this live stream. I didn't see any questions come back, but, uh, I'll be happy to do this again if people want to, continue to ask questions or send in questions and do this on a more regular basis. So thank you so much to everybody for joining me. If you don't know who I am, and you just stumbled upon this, I guess, you can find out more about what I do over at casabona.org. And thanks. I'll see you next week. I guess I should sign off with what I always sign off with, which is until next time, get out there and build something.